Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know why that picture is so small, but it doesn't really matter. Uh, I wanted to talk a little bit about something. One of our friends here who comments a lot, more on Facebook, we get a little more interactions with him um, here on the channel, was asking me about the afterlife for people who are not of our persuasion. What is the Jewish view? So, and the terminology he was using is, go to heaven. Now that's a colloquialism. I think that's the first thing we have to recognize. This idea of going to heaven, going to hell, so forth. That's more of the way I would describe it, not in a negative way, but in the Jungian way, is that's the mythology, right? That's the mythos. We don't really know what the afterlife is. We can only describe it in the form of parables. But nonetheless, we know that there's an afterlife. We know there's reward and punishment. And since we see as one of the dogmas of Judaism is that God rewards those who keeps his commandments and corrects those who violate his commandments. And since we don't see justice in this world, we know there must be justice in the afterlife. But also, the afterlife is part of more of our eschatology more than anything. The clearest concept of the afterlife in Judaism is the resurrection of the dead, meaning that the bodies will be resurrected and walk again. The soul will be reunited with the body. But this idea of heaven and hell, these are certainly ideas that exist in Judaism. It's not like a lot of people claim that Jews don't believe in hell or Jews don't believe in an afterlife. No, we certainly believe in an afterlife, and there certainly is the doctrine of Gan Eden and Gehinnom, of paradise and purgatory. Really is perhaps a better description rather than heaven and hell. But nonetheless, these terms are mashalim. These terms are parables for things that we do not exactly understand. That's something that's very important. We do not understand. We only know from, the parables that we're taught. And there are many great parables about heaven and hell. There was a Reb Chaim, I don't remember where he was from, somewhere in Lithuania. I don't remember exactly his name. He was a traveling Maggid, and he told over a parable that's really an old Chinese parable. Some people I've heard more than one person claim this is somewhere in the Talmud. It's not in the Medrash, it's not even the Rishonim. It's one of the Achronim, not even a very well-known Achron, who gave over this mashal, but nonetheless, I believe it's a very apt mashal, even though it's not of Jewish origin. It's really of Chinese origin. Somehow, the story got to this Reb Chaim, this Maggid, and it was that heaven and hell are really the same type of place. And I've gotten a lot of flack for saying that. But it makes a lot of sense, meaning because we're told that in the afterlife we're going to be spending time learning Torah and davening. So for a religious person, that's heaven. For an irreligious person, that's hell. To imagine to spend your whole life, the whole afterlife, in the synagogue. It depends on how you feel about being in the synagogue, right? And the truth is, it doesn't necessarily have to be particular to any religion. I'm not saying that someone who enjoys going to church is going to be, wound up in a synagogue. all these things are mashalim, all these things are parables for things that we really don't understand. But we know that they're there, we know that they're true. In any event, one thing that we know is Chasidei Umos Ha'olam Yesh Lehem Chilek Olam Haba. The Talmud tells us that the pious of the nations of the world, righteous Gentiles, have a place in the world to come. So that we know. However, when it comes to conversion, we tell the potential convert that really only the Jews are in Olam Haba. So these two things seem to contradict one another. But in any event, we have these two different ideas, and it's generally accepted that the way that I've been taught to write this contradiction is that the afterlife for the pious Jew is a much greater afterlife than even the most righteous Gentile. Even a mediocre religious Jew has a greater Olam Haba than the most righteous Gentile. Again, all these things are mashalim. We don't really understand what does that mean. But that's what I've been taught. Nonetheless, what is this idea of Chasidei Umos Ha'olam? The righteous of the nations? Who are the righteous of the nations? And basically there are two views that I was able to find. One is the Rambam's view, which is the more strict view, that one has to basically be a believer in Orthodox Judaism, and if one decides not to convert, but they believe in this theology, and they try to live according to the 7 laws of Noah, because of the theology of Orthodox Judaism, such a person could be labeled Chasidei, one of the Chasidei Umos Ha'olam. Sometimes they call them Hasidic Gentiles. It's kind of a silly term, but it's funny, but it's not really what it means. So there are some who are Hasidim of Rebbes, I guess, also. Certainly Lubavitch, because they have the Sheva Mitzvahs program, right? But beyond that, there is also the idea of that basically that's the only way, then, according to the Rambam, that someone is going to Olam Haba. It would seem that because if we're using this term Chasidei Umos Ha'olam and understanding, although the thing is, nowhere does it say that others do not have a place in Olam Haba. Nowhere does it say that other people do not have a place in heaven, so to speak. But nonetheless, that is an idea that we can find in that would certainly support a place in Olam Haba, being Chasidei Umos Ha'olam. The reason I have this particular verse in Malachi open, Malachi 1:11, is because Rashi there, based on the Gemara in Menachos, seems to indicate that pagans can be Chasidei Umos Ha'olam, based on this verse. And so, by extrapolation, that would maybe even include other people as well, even perhaps total atheists and others. And with that being said, it would seem that such people also could have a chelik in Olam Haba, even if they have the wrong theology, as long as they're good people. Meaning, I would even go far to say, if you keep the other 6 laws of Noah, and you don't, and out of ignorance, you don't keep the prohibition against the Avodah Zarah, according to how Rashi learns this, and how the Gemara in Menachos learns it, such a person could theoretically have some kind of a chelik in Olam Haba. Theoretically. doesn't really discuss the issue of Olam Haba, but just the title of Chasidei Umos HaOlam, of who is a righteous Gentile. It's all very interesting. It's all, but again, it's not really discussing this question of heaven and hell. It's more discussing who is righteous. But it seems Rashi on this verse, based in the Gemara and Menachos, learns that because let's see what the verse says. Ki mimizrach Shem eshad mavo al gadol shmi b'gayim ubechol makoim muktar mugash l'shmi umincha tahora ki gadol shmi b'gayim amar Hashem tzvakos. So it says, because from the rising of the sun to the setting thereof, great is my name among the nations, and in every place where they're offering incense, it's being offered to my name, and it's a pure offering, because great is my name among the nations, says the Lord of hosts. And this is a bit of Musar at Temechalom Meiser B'Marchim, right? The Kohanim and the Beis Hamikdash. This is Musar to the Kohanim and the Beis Hamikdash. Don't think you're such hot stuff just because you have the right religion. You can have the wrong religion and still be a good person. Just because you're a Kohen in the Beis Hamikdash and you're so excited because we rebuilt the Beis Hamikdash, don't think you're better than anybody else. That's really the Musar there. Maybe they could move this a bit. I don't know. But in any event, that's the point that I think kind of answers this question that this friend of mine was asking. Meaning, is there a source for the idea that people... Is there a source for the idea that people who do not share our theology could perhaps have a place in the afterlife? It would seem from this verse, yes. So, and it would seem the Rambam might disagree, might not. It's not clear as that either. And even places in the Gemara that might disagree in general as well. So there's many, many things to discuss here, but it is a possibility. It seems that, Chazal would want to say that a Ger Tzedek has somewhat of an advantage in that, meaning that if you really want to be sure of Olam Haba, and certainly you're going to get a greater share in Olam Haba, then it's, if you believe in the Torah and you're able to live according to the Torah, even the most basic way, it's worthwhile to become a Ger Tzedek, to convert to Judaism. But, that's so bold. But nonetheless, someone who never heard of Judaism, or someone who's honest with themselves that he thinks he's with himself or herself. I don't like to use plural pronouns for individuals. I was taught that that's bad grammar. I know it's political now, but any event. If so, and they feel that he or she cannot do it, it's a different story. But maybe try, So thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment. We'll see you later.